All right, guys, perfect. So we're gonna start now. So just to confirm, can everybody hear me? Just if somebody could send a message in the chat box, that'll be awesome. Amazing.
Yeah,
So perfect. Okay, guys, first of all, thank you so much for joining, and I welcome all of you to Amazon Sellers Virtual Meetup. I have been organizing meetups for some of you, those who don't know, I have organized over 30 meetups and one conference in different parts of Canada. So with this COVID-19 thing, obviously we can't do it outside, but we're gonna have to go, you know, uh, virtual. So that comes with a different, better opportunity. We can now go uh, all over the world. We have some great speakers joining us. So we're gonna, talk about different parts of Amazon, like Facebook ads, Amazon wholesale, uh, reviews, and email automation and stuff like that. So if you haven't introduced yourself, if you could send me your name or place you're joining from, that's going to be awesome. And I'm going to read out all of your names and your messages. And then after that, we're going to go to the speakers. If you're watching us on live on like Facebook or YouTube, just drop it in the comments below. I'll give a shout out to you guys as well. So we have Ken joining us from Edmonton. That's awesome. We have Quinn from Edmonton. We have a PMAC. We have yeah, he's joining us from Seattle. That's awesome. Meghla from Singapore. Shoaib from Toronto, Canada. Rogel from Edmonton. Amazing. Chris from Calgary. Uh, we have Manny. He's from Chicago. That's amazing. And we have Feedback Visa. I'm sure it's Hanson or Robbie. It's from San Jose, California. Eric from Chicago. That's amazing. Marty from Calgary. Denny from Toronto. PMAC from Chicago. Julian from Montreal. John from Minneapolis. Riz from Camrose. That's amazing. Danny from Toronto. Kevin from Chicago. That's amazing. Mocha from beautiful Kelowna, BC. I love that place. Mike from Edmonton. I have Marty from Kelowna, Osama from Edmonton. If you guys see a lot of Edmonton people, because I'm from Edmonton and our meetup group is from Edmonton. So, okay, so Roger from Edmonton, Curtis from St. Albert, beautiful town, Scott from Calgary, Saddam currently in Pakistan. He's locked down in Pakistan, but he's from Edmonton. So Abdul from Vegre Village, that's amazing. Preet from Edmonton, Stephen from Banff. Oh my God, that's a beautiful place. Salman from Richmond Hill, Ontario. That's amazing. Okay, so I have perfect Kevin from Chicago. That's amazing. Welcome, guys. Welcome, everybody. It's such an honor for to be here with all of you. So we're gonna start, uh, you know, with the speakers first. So here's what our agenda looks like today. So we will be joined by Yev. He's the founder of Yon Tracker. He's been, at multiple conferences. Great guy. He knows ins and out of the Facebook. He's going to talk about the Facebooks. We have a Hanson Wu. He's joining us from San Jose. He's the CEO and founder of Feedback Viz. That's amazing. I love that company. I know many of my friends who've been using that. I use that. Amazing company. We have Meghla from Singapore. She'll be speaking on, uh, you know, how to source from India. That's going to be amazing. So we have Quinn. He's joining us from St. Albert. He'll be speaking on ways to boost Amazon sales, and he is the CEO of Prolific Zone. We have a Ken. He's the owner of Canada Prep and Ship. He'll be speaking on some of the products to sell on Amazon. Then we have a Curtis and John. Okay, that's going to be amazing. So this is what I have scheduled. So first, we're going to start with the Quinn. So he's going to speak on 7 ways to boost your sales on Amazon, and followed by Yev, Facebook ads for your Amazon products. Then Hanson, will be followed right after that. He'll be speaking on review strategies with email automation. Then we have Meghla. She'll be speaking on uh, how to source products, from India. Ken will be speaking on 5 products to sell on Amazon. Curtis and John will be speaking on Amazon wholesale. So here's what it looks like. After every speaker, we'll have like 5 minutes of questions and answers around. If you have any questions after the presentation or after the speech, you can either send it in the chat box or unmute yourself and just say out loud. And no question is a bad question, so just keep them coming. Okay, so this is what the agenda looks like today, and I'm gonna give this to Quinn now. Quinn, it's over to you, and you can start your
Hey
stuff.
everyone, welcome. Thank you all for coming. So I'm a private label seller, so I'm going to give you seven of my tips, things that I use to grow business online. For those that don't know, I'll do it really quick. I've been selling online this is my 22nd year. I didn't always do private label, but that's all I do now. So seven of my tips one of them is do not follow the masses. So there's many people out there teaching you how to source products, and some of them are teaching you wrong, not because they want you to fail, but because maybe they haven't been through it. But looking at high demand products and then finding the ones that have the lowest competition, it may seem pretty straightforward, and actually it may sound easier said than done. But the reality is, if you're lucky enough to find one of those products, it can and possibly will eat up all your cash flow. And sometimes it could potentially ruin your business. For example, a few years ago, I found one of those products, right? And it's something that sells 4,000 units per month. So because it takes 45 days to make it, and it's made in China, it takes me 4 to 5 days to get it made after I order it. It takes about, let's say, a month for sea shipping, and then you can add another week or so for Amazon to get it, to make it available. So we're looking at 3 months. 3 months, the sales are 12,000 units. So that's the minimum amount of stock I need to have when I order a second order. This means at any time you need to have prepaid at least 24,000 units. So this is one of the issues that you have if you find something too big. It's a good problem to have, but we're looking at, for example, 200 grand per order that's going to sit in the ocean or Amazon FBA's warehouses until it sells. And the other one that's on the way has to be paid already. So one of the things that a lot of people forget is to have 200 grand to pay for a shipment, you have to sell at least 800 grand to make those 200, if we're talking about 25% return. So my point is, don't go after the big thing until you can actually fulfill that big thing. And because another thing is, if you start slowly and you're going to order 100 units and it's going to last you 3 days of inventory, for example, and then you place that order, and even if it only takes 1 month, and you're playing with that money back and forth, when you get that 1 month later and your listing has been down, I guarantee one of two things happen. Either your listing has been taken because you had some positive reviews, or meanwhile, 1,000 other people found that product and are sourcing that product now, and probably have a higher capability to not run out of stock. So try to find those niches that not everybody is going after, because 50% of, I don't know, let's say we're looking at the small pond here, right? 50% of 1,000 units is a lot more than 1% of 10,000 units. You know what I mean? And your PPC will go down if you're not into those high demand products. Hopefully I made myself clear on that one. Then second one is sourcing. So when you're ordering your product, at the time that you're ordering a product, by now you have full trust that, or at least you should have full trust that this product is going to be a winner. Now, if you don't know that this product is going to be a winner, you shouldn't be ordering it yet. Okay, maybe it could be a winner, but if you're not sure, there's a few things that you should do. And it doesn't matter now if you're if you're just starting out or if you have 20 years of experience. Your opinion is only your opinion, right? You need to get somebody else involved in this. And most of the times you can get, people that you trust, friends and family. Sometimes they don't want to give you bad feedback. They want to tell you all the positive things. So here's the trick that I learned. Go to a site like Fiverr.com. Okay, go to Fiverr.com and you can find people there that are willing to do product sourcing for $5 or $10. Now, do not hire them to do your product sourcing. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. Do not hire them. What you're going to do is, instead of getting them to do product sourcing, is you pay them whatever it is, the $5, $10, $20 that they want, and ask 2 or 3 of them to give you 3 reasons why your product will fail. That's all you want. You don't want any positives. You just want them to tell you 3 reasons why your product will fail. And now what's going to happen is, even if they could have a lot of experience, they could have no experience, but they're going to look at things with different eyes, some things that you haven't seen. And I mean, it happened to me so many times. And one of the times I could have had a successful product if I had simply asked my wife, and I didn't. And after it failed, she told me why. And it would be something super simple. So make sure you get a few opinions. And then one of the things that people may think is, what if they steal my idea? Trust me, they won't. If they're willing to do $5 gigs on Fiverr, they're not here to steal your idea. I mean, if they could launch a successful brand and steal your idea, they would have done it by now. All right. So point number 3 is to think about the box. Now, actually, that sounded pretty funny, but I'm not saying to think outside the box or inside the box. Man, it gets funnier the more I think about it. So my point is, get a great designer and work on your packaging. Wow, no pun intended there. So anyway, sorry guys. Get some great packaging designed, something that is appealing to the eye for a few reasons. One is, even though it's not 100% according to terms of service, that you can't really have packaging on the main image, but sometimes, everybody knows we can get away with it. And having something with some extra color next to your product can increase conversion rate. Another thing it does is it can increase retention rate. If your customer receives a beautiful package and it is one of those products that they can subscribe to and get it reoccurring, like right now, toilet paper, that would be something you would want to have a subscription for. But if you have a nice packaging, people can, just like Apple does with cell phones. And I see now there's 50 people listening to this. Out of the 50, I bet probably half of us have iPhone boxes empty in the house somewhere, just because they're too nice to throw out, right? And another thing is because you want to have your product shelf ready, because you never know when your next product is going to be super successful and somebody wants to have it on the shelves at, let's say, Walmart, Target, and all that stuff. And you want to have it ready to be on the shelves, right? Beautiful looking and actually legal. So you want your UPC to be there, depending what category it is. You want everything needed to be on your package design. All right. So I'm not sure how much time I have here, but I'll go into point number 4 here. And this is something I personally love. It is the Amazon in-stock Head Start. Head Start was launched in June of last year, 2019. And it's a program that allows sellers to sell products out of stock on Amazon. Okay, so that would have come on handy if you knew that a while back. The thing is, you can only sell out of stock if you already have products on the way to the warehouse. If you already have the shipping labels created and these products are already on the way to the warehouse, now you can do that. So although you're selling something that is out of stock, Amazon is going to put red letters on your listing saying, like right now, all Amazon has that. But until now, because this situation, only a few listings had that. the red letters that say available only in April 26th. So some of my products had that before, and this is because they're on the way to the warehouse, and you can trigger that and start selling. Now, it can reduce the conversion rate because some people still read, and the ones that do read that, it may, I mean, if I'm paying for Prime, I only want something that's going to arrive tomorrow. That's fine. The reduction of the conversion rate is way less impactful than the reduction you would have from being out of stock. Okay, so for example, if you run out of stock, you may close your listing, you may do whatever you want, but you are going to lose rankings no matter what. Because the second your product disappears from whatever pages it is in, another product is going to replace yours, right? And then of course they're going to gain that velocity that requires to stay in that position. So Amazon in-stock head start, from what I understand, anybody can get in, everybody is approved. All you have to do is search for Amazon in-stock head start. I don't have a link for it right now, but I mean, if you don't have the products on the way to the warehouse right now, you cannot trigger it. But of course, you'll know that for the future. So point number 5, A/B testing. A/B testing is super important. So if you're going to have, if you have a private label brand, if you're selling things that you have unlimited quantity of, you should be improving those listings. It's what we call the 1% improvements. Meaning you can increase, if you can increase something 1%, it sounds like nothing, but 1% a day is over 300, like 360% per year. Yeah, I wish every brand could grow 360% per year. So if you can do those little improvements, and one of the things you got to remember is A/B testing can only be done with A and B testing. There's no ABC testing. If you test more than one thing at a time, right? If you change the title and the bullet points at the same time, you will never know which one worked or which one didn't work. So that's why you only do A/B testings. I hear people going crazy and they say, I'm going to do ABC testing because you can save time. You're not saving time because you need to know those analytics of, I mean, did it work or not, right? So another thing is, if you're going to do a test, A/B test, never do it without taking timestamps. So write it down, I mean, on a notepad or your whiteboard. I changed the title of SKU whatever or ASIN whatever on certain day at whatever time you did this. This is because, I mean, if you get old like me, you tend to forget things. And I often would do tests and then wouldn't remember what day I changed them. And you have to go back and see if it actually worked. And to see if it worked in an A/B test, you're going to be measuring the conversion rate, right? You check the conversion rate of the listing itself. I'm not just talking about the PPC conversion rate, but you look at the general conversion rate of each product. And let's say you change the title, you let it run for 3-5 days, depending on the number of impressions that product gets. Because if you're selling, I don't know, let's say a set of drums, you may get 1,000 impressions on that product per month. But if you're selling earbuds, Bluetooth earbuds, you can get 10,000 impressions a day, right? So of course, 2 days of that earbuds may have a better tracking analytics for you than a drum set that you're selling for $2,000 that only 100 or 1,000 people see a month, right? So that's what you got to remember, is that you have enough visualizations to your listing to see that works. All right, so number 6 is build for the future. So what this means is try to build a brand, try to get a brand out of this. So it's very easy to sell just a product. You're selling a product, right? You create a listing. Sometimes, I mean, if you're doing wholesale, you don't even have to create the listing. You're selling the products. And of course, nothing against it. It's a beautiful model, wholesale, and very profitable as well. What I mean is, when you're building your own brand of products, you're going to have eventually, if that is your plan, and most people have that plan, is a payday in the future when you want to sell that brand or somebody approaches you to buy that brand. So I mean, to me, it's something that gives me pleasure because I can see it's something I've built and I'm growing something of mine. And one of the happiest days I ever had was walking into one of my friend's house back in the day when we could still walk into other people's houses uh, without being quarantined. And I saw my product on somebody's shelf, and I knew it was mine because nobody else makes that. When it's private label, you know you're the only one that makes that particular brand. And when you see somebody with your product on the shelf, I mean, if any of you ever felt that, it's an incredible feeling. It's like I felt like Elon Musk that day. Okay, so of course it was no Tesla or anything. It was a lot cheaper than that. But let's go to point number 7 here. Expand out of Amazon. We all know if we're Amazon sellers, I love Amazon. It's my number one right now, but it's still, we don't own that platform. We don't own the customers. You know, we don't even get, we don't get customers' emails. We're limited to marketing that we can do with those customers. So don't be dependent on Amazon paycheck. For 29 bucks, you can get a Shopify account. You can have a professional, beautiful built website. I mean, it's very easy. It's not drag and drop as like ClickFunnels, but there's themes already pre-built. All you have to fill is remove the Latin words and put your own in there, add your products, and that's 29 bucks. Another one is go to walmart.com. Walmart.com, a lot of people are afraid, I don't know why, to go to the walmart.com because of what used to happen on retail. On retail, a lot of companies get rejected. Walmart.com, you don't get rejected. I mean, I don't know if there are people that get rejected. I never heard of any. I applied for a few brands. Every single one gets approved. And to do so, all you have to do is go to marketplace.walmart.com. If you didn't know, until now, it was possible to do something similar to FBA with Walmart with one of their partners called Deliver, and that's Deliver with 2 R's. Deliver was Walmart's FBA, technically. And you would send your inventory to Deliver, and then they connect through API to Walmart. Every time you sell, they would fulfill it. And it would work that way beautifully. Now, Walmart is working on something that I can't remember what they call it. I call it FBW, Fulfilled by Walmart, but they have a different name for it. And they're the biggest logistics company on earth, in case you didn't know. Walmart is the biggest logistics company on earth. So when they want to launch, and they are, I'm already on the waiting list for this new FBW thing. They are going to try very, very hard to compete with Amazon because they're losing their retail to the online world, and they know the online world is the way of the future. So, I mean, I want to be there when it's at its infancy so you can get all the benefits. Right now, PPC on Walmart, man, some categories, I tell you right now, in some categories, I'm the only one advertising. We're talking about Walmart, which is a giant, and there's categories where I'm the only one that has an ad, and I'm paying cents because nobody else shows up. And when somebody types the keywords that I want, I show up always in number one because Walmart, they can't even rotate ads because there's no more ads to show. That's the opportunity right there. So that's it. That's my 7 tips. Now I'm guessing there's 5 minutes for anybody that wants to ask questions.
Yeah, guys, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to ask Quinn. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, just drop it in the comments below. And yeah, we'll take your questions, right? We have some time. And yeah, great info, Quinn. That was really, really helpful, especially with the Walmart thing. I was at the White Label Expo this February, and I met a lot of sellers who said their Walmart is doing better than Amazon actually. But that's a different story. But it's definitely a good place to branch off. So, Quinn, can you see the questions from the chat box, or I think you have a couple of questions.
All right, let me see. What is one product you suggest to avoid? Oh man, so this is from Ken. Ken, there's so many I would avoid. One of them is even though I'm not starting out, I still avoid some of the super big categories, like there's things like vitamin C serum. That keyword is very big. The sales of vitamin C serum, even before this, they were huge. But I can tell you right now, there's people making so many millions of vitamin C serum that even if you try and if you start to succeed, you can potentially be stepped on. So, man, I wish I was in that position to be able to compete at that level. But there's things like that some people are afraid to sell products made of glass. Others are afraid to sell electronics. Uh, I mean, I'm not very afraid of those, although I'm not in electronics anymore. Not for the reason that,
Yes.
not because of.
Sorry, Corinne, sorry to cut you off. We have like a
Yeah,
couple of questions. If you wanna, answer those real quick, then we're
yeah.
gonna head to, Zev for Facebook
Okay,
ads.
let me see. Another one. Quinn, how do you think the landscape will change post COVID-19? Man, that's a good one. I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of things that are going to be that were in big demand until now. That after this, I mean, people are going to have overstock at home, and for the longest time, nobody's going to need it anymore. One of them is the vitamin C, food products that are dried seeds and stuff like that. Toilet paper. Nobody's going to buy toilet paper for the next 2 or 3 years. Um, it's different. It's going to be a lot of people learned a lot of hard lessons, and I don't know if maybe it's a positive thing. I think it may be positive that the outcome, but I don't know it yet.
Okay, Corinne. So there's one more. We can take one more question, and all the other questions, we're gonna have a panel session in the end. So at
Mhm.
that time, you can ask your questions too. So Quinn, if you want to take one more, please.
Okay, here we go. Next one. When your opinion, when you think is a good time for a newbie to launch? Uh, I mean, the best time was 5 years ago. The second best time is today. If you're looking at a time of the year that's best, uh, if you could have a product delivered to Amazon with FBA by October of any year, and you have plenty of inventory to last you until sometime January, that would be the ideal if your product is somewhat giftable, because that's going to be one of the times that everybody's going to buy things that even they don't care for, because they're going to offer them and give them to somebody. But you have to start sourcing those products during the summer if you want to have them available in October. That's it.
Okay, that's amazing, Quinn. Thank you so much. That was really helpful. And if there's any questions, we'll get back to you in the end, right? So we're
Okay.
going to have a kind of a panelist sessions so people can ask questions there. So if you have just joined us now, if you want to drop in where you're joining from, that's going to be awesome. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to some of the people. Brandon, he joined us from Edmonton. I remember Brandon, he was at one of our meetups like a long time ago. Uh, Amazing. So Melissa, she's from Toronto. Babs, she's from Calgary. Amazing, guys. Okay, yeah. So it's over to you. Let's learn about Facebook ads.
Thank you. Let me share the screen too, so I have something to point to.
Sure,
Can
go
you
ahead.
give me some thumbs up if you see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. I like how Quinn's think about the box, kind of like a different approach. So one of the things that from all of this data that I'm seeing, it's usually I'm trying to really kind of like connect way outside of the box through my two different softwares. I'm always trying to release features which are just like not available in others because I'm trying to get a data that maybe isn't available yet, and I don't know if it's meaningful or yet. So that's the approach you'll see, that I'm trying to provide insights that know how important it is, and then at some point some of it is important, some of it is not, and thinking inside of the box. Well, you need hacks, tactics, strategies to actually implement Facebook ads. So that's the I want you to kind of about as the examples that I show. Maybe a mix. There's a couple of things that I'm going to show which are normally I present to like advanced Amazon sellers and try to like connect Facebook ads and that topic, but I have a few things here for beginners as well. So I'm going to first start, actually go a little backward of thinking about Facebook ads, some kind of like newer stuff that's coming through like ranking discussion. I want to kind of set this as a baseline and then come into Facebook ads rather than talking about Facebook ad strategy right away. So through one of the softwares, like one of the things is that we've been learning is that it's not where like you launch a new product and you're available everywhere. It's actually more incremental. This is showing keyword ranking at a regional level, and it's showing up like one state at a time. It just depends how fast you launch to know like where you're actually available. Where in certain states, customer like can't find you, you're just not ranking, and that's depending on a lot of factors. This has been over the past years and the past couple of months as we're trying to do this, and this is where how much inventory you have, the warehouses are located, where.
I have, sorry to interrupt you. I think some of our members, they're saying it's a little bit choppy. Do you want to maybe check your mic once again?
Yeah, 1 second. Let me see.
Thank you.
I'll maybe also try to speak a little bit slower. If I'm talking now, choppy or?
Little better, I think. Maybe if you want to. Mike is saying might be the internet connection. I guess, can you guys hear me? If someone want to just send out a message, I think Yev might be disconnected. Okay, John can hear me. That's good.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I think Yev, he might join us right back. In the meantime, Quinn, if you want to take the questions which were pending in the chat box, if you want to, while we wait for.
Yeah, I was typing some of the answers right now to the ones that I'm finding here. So let me see. This one I just answered in writing here. Man, it's so hard to read them in this small little.
I think one of the questions that people are asking, Quinn, is how easy it is to set up at Walmart.
It's pretty easy. You're going to need. The thing is, it's very easy if for Amazon.com, not .ca. That's for whatever reason they in Walmart Canada. I mean, they make it a little bit harder. So Walmart.com, it's marketplace.walmart.com. It's pretty straightforward. You fill company name, all your information in there, and I think it's like a 30-second form that they give you that you have to fill. Send in that information, they'll give you an email back. And like I said, I did a few brands already and I've never been refused any. So it's pretty easy.
Okay, amazing. So what we'll do, since we're waiting for Yev, we're gonna jump to Hanson for the email automation to get more reviews. Hanson, can you hear me?
Hey guys, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can hear you. Perfect. So it's over to you now while we wait for Yev. So he's gonna have to restart. So it's good that we found the problem like right away. But yeah,
Sure.
so it's over to you, Hanson. So
Okay, great. Let me share my screen so you guys can see. Can everybody see my screen?
yes, I can. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure everyone.
So
can.
yeah, let me introduce myself. My name's Henson, co-founder, CEO of Feedback Quiz, and we help Amazon sellers basically improve and manage their brand reputation. So we can help you guys get more reviews through emails, and we can also help monitor your products, your listing changes. And we have some new tools coming out this year. So I'll kind of talk about it at the end. So for sellers that are already selling on Amazon, obviously reviews is the most important thing because, for a customer to buy your product, first you need to rank high, and then also you need to have good review rating. So it's more and more difficult these days to get reviews because, obviously Amazon's cracking down on all the black hat stuff, and, all the strategies that used to work, years ago no longer work anymore. So these days, a lot of people use, outside sources, chatbots, whatever. What we focus on really is using automated software to help you guys get reviews through emails. And before I get into that, a lot of sellers use this thing called Amazon Early Review Program. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this, but for the ones that aren't familiar, just really quick, basically Amazon will find some reviewers to help review your products to get started. So usually listings that have brand new listings that you just launched that have no reviews, you can submit into this program, and it costs $60 per SKU, which can be a little expensive, but they will guarantee anywhere between 1 to 5 reviews. But it's not necessarily always going to be positive reviews, but most likely it's going to be positive because these reviewers are getting some compensation from Amazon. So in a way, it's kind of like they're incentivizing the review. We're not allowed to do it, but it's their platform, they can do it. So we do recommend people that are launching new products to use this program just to get a few reviews, and usually we do see a high amount of positive reviews. So the only downside really is the money, the cost could be high, and there's no guarantee the first review will be positive. So imagine if you just launched a product, your first review is a negative review, you're gonna need 3 or 4 positive reviews to kind of cancel that out to get a 4-star rating. So there is some downsides to it. And then sometimes it could take 2 or 3 months before you get any reviews. So those are the drawbacks. However, it is through Amazon, so we do recommend you sign up for this program to get the early reviews. Now, before I actually get into sending emails or using review request button, there's a lot of things that have been happening in Amazon in the last 3-4 months. And one of the biggest things really is that they're really enforcing their terms of service or seller communication guidelines. A lot of sellers are not aware of what's going on. People have been sending emails in the past with, specific messages to try to get product reviews and, suggestive language or incentivizing them with coupons. So all this stuff basically has come to an end, meaning that before you can get away with it, now you can't. So Amazon has deployed some kind of algorithm that can actually detect what kind of messages you're sending out through buyer seller messaging. So if you're in violation of some of these terms of service, then Amazon will slap you with a 30-day email suspension. So a lot of people have been getting slapped with this, and they've been getting scared, and they're like basically saying, "Oh, I can't send emails anymore." So I'll kind of go through, some of the myths about sending emails. And there's also this new review request button that came out, so I'll talk about that as well. So really high level terms of service guidelines, things you can't do. These are pretty obvious, like you never want to compensate or give them exchange a product for review, never offer refunds if after the buyer leaves a review, you can't ask them to change a review, you can't ask them to write a positive review, and you can't even ask them to contact you if there's an issue in the same email as the product review request email. So they're really trying to neutralize and level the playing field of getting genuine reviews from buyers now. So, and also one of the biggest things now is you can only send 1 email or 1 review request per order. So back in the days, people would set up these sequences where they can send like multiple emails, different timings, things like that. Now you can't do that anymore. And you actually don't want to send any links or attachments outside, like to your website or things like that. Those are also not allowed. So what can you do now is you really want to personalize your email in a friendly manner, right? You don't want to use any suggested language to ask for a review, and you can only send one email, request email or seller email per order, meaning you either combine them together or you send only one. You can't send one seller review request email. You can't send one product review request email per order. So those are kind of the high level rules. I suggest you guys all read the buyer seller messaging in terms of communication guidelines in general about what you can and can't do with buyer seller messaging. So now many sellers are aware there's this new acquire product reviews using a request a review feature. So if you inside your orders page, you'll see there's a button here. You can actually request a review. So by pressing this button, basically Amazon will send out a product review request automatically, and you don't have to do anything. It's just an automated email from Amazon. They all look the same. They have the same subject line, and it's going to ask for both seller review and product review in the same email. So what are the pros of using this request review feature? Well, it's 100% compliant by Amazon, so you don't have to worry about drafting up a message or getting hit with any suspensions. You're not going to get restricted. They actually prefer you use this method over using buyer seller messaging now. So you can avoid sending emails to buyers who've already left a feedback review, since the button will disappear on its own if it happened. And it automatically also translates to buyers' preferred language. So for example, if you're selling in Europe or UK or Japan, these customers are read in different languages. So they will actually translate the template for you. So you don't have to create specific language templates. Now the cons of this button is that you can't really customize it all. So you can't put in your logos, you can't do any branding. You can't track metrics like open rates. Buyers cannot respond if they have an issue or they have something to tell you. They can't respond to it. And it always sends both product review and seller feedback links in the same email. And one of the biggest cons of that is if you're an FBA seller or FBM seller, usually you're focused on either getting product reviews or seller reviews. And unlikely you're trying to get both, but some sellers do want to get both. However, the problem is if you send both request links in the same email, most buyers are inclined to click on one of them. And once they click on one of them, leave a review or feedback, they're not going to go back to the email and click on the second line and do the same one, because a lot of buyers don't understand the difference between seller feedback and product review. So it's actually ideal to target only either seller review or product review and not to mingle them together. So that's one of the biggest cons of using the review request feature. Now, using buyer seller messaging emails. So a lot of people think you can't use this anymore. It's not true. Amazon still allows you to use buyer seller messaging to request reviews and seller feedback. However, the thing really you need to do is educate yourself and understand the communication guidelines on what you can send in the text and the content of the actual email you're sending out. So the biggest pros of using buyer seller messaging emails is fully customizable, right? So you can put in your logo, you can put in pictures, you can put in buttons. These are all going to help you get higher conversions. And like Quinn said earlier, a 1% increase in conversions is huge, right? Especially once you start growing your brand. If you're getting 1,000 orders a day, that 1 or 2% increase can really make a difference on getting product reviews. You can customize your subject lines. So for example, we usually use a subject line like regarding your Amazon order or something like that, versus Amazon will send the email that says, can you rate your transaction or something like that. So the subject line really makes a big difference, because the first thing that people read when they open their email is the subject line. The subject line determines if they want to open the email or not. Now, based on our studies, subject lines that are too direct, that tell you exactly what the email content is about, sometimes people tend to overlook and not actually open those emails. So you actually get lower open rates and lower conversions because of that. Now, if you can customize your subject line and, not in a deceiving way, but in a way where it sounds like there's something important about the message where it's still regarding with Amazon, you will see much higher open rates. And that's why we always seen, some of the subject lines that we A/B test, we get 40% open rates. And just because of the open rate, it actually transitioned to getting higher conversions, including personalized messages within Amazon communication guidelines. So like right now, we're in a crisis right now. So, asking for a review, you can throw in something about like, we're here to support you through COVID-19, things like that. Like there's always ways to create personalized emails that within Amazon guidelines that, can kind of bring a little bit of personalization in between you and the buyer, right? Because once you build that connection, it really increases the chances of them, leaving a review. Attaching files or product instructions. So, a lot of sellers don't realize that you can actually attach files. For example, like if you're selling a treadmill or some workout equipment and it requires some kind of, way to build it or exercises that you need to do, these are actually things that Amazon allows you to attach to your emails, which can really help your branding as well, because inside this attachment, of course, you're going to have your branding, instructions, and this will also help cut down on negative reviews, because if they understand how to use your product, they're generally going to have a more positive experience. So these are actually things you can attach using buyer seller messaging where you can't use with the review request button. And of course, you can track open rates, you can see, and then you can A/B test and change subject lines to help improve conversions. Now, what are the biggest risks, cons right now? Well, the risk is now there's a restriction, right? You can possibly get restricted for sending emails if you don't understand the communication guidelines. If you put in suggestive language, you're asking them to leave a positive review, things like that. Amazon has an algorithm. They will slap you with that 30-day restriction. So that's one thing that's a con. Risk of sending multiple request emails. Now, if you're doing this manually or using a software that doesn't have any type of restrictions, it's very possible you could be sending duplicate emails or more than one request email, and Amazon's going to also hit you with that. The other thing is that buyer name is no longer allowed. The API doesn't send the personal information anymore, so we can't, address you, be like, hey, Quinn, or hey, Kamaljit, we can't put that in there anymore. Whereas the other review request button does have that. So those are the cons. Now you're asking which one should you use? So sellers who want a peace of mind, 100% Amazon compliant email, they don't want to deal with the hassle of reading communication guidelines and making their own templates, then the review request button option is probably the best for you, right? Now with buyer seller messaging, these are people that are building brands, right? You have a logo, you want to throw in that email, you want to connect with your customers, a personalized message. You want to add product instructions, or there's sellers that have specific selling big quantities of goods that need delivery instructions or customization of a dog tag or something. These actually requires the buyers to communicate with you. So this is where you would need to use buyer seller messaging, and there are ways to opt out and to get through to all the people that buy your products using like the important tag. But those are considered critical messages, and you have to really be careful on how you use that too. If you use it the wrong way, you can also get hit with restriction. So basic conclusion is that buyer seller messaging emails, customization emails are always going to give you higher conversions, just because with the review request button, it's just kind of like the same as the feedback the feedback request mechanism that Amazon sends to pretty much all your purchases. It's the same email, the same body, the same content. Like everyone knows the same email. So after some time, people are just become insensitive to it, and they're not going to open those emails anymore. So that's what we've seen. We've seen that when they first launched this review request button, the review conversion rate was actually very high, because this is something new. No one's seen it before, and they're like, oh, this is cool, check it out. But now it's like everyone's getting the same email. I mean, I've been buying tons of stuff on eBay because of this, and not eBay, but Amazon. And I'm getting these emails every day, and I honestly just stop opening them just because, it's the same thing, right? But with customization, you can change it up. You have the ability to adapt, right, to things. So basically, don't be afraid of sending emails to your buyer messaging. You got to spend the time and effort to understand everything about selling Amazon, right? All the big companies, all the corporate brands, they're still using buyer seller messaging to deliver messages, deliver order confirmation, things like that. So take the time, effort, build your brand logo, set up your email, set up your customization, and spend time to fully understand the Amazon communication guidelines. So just to give you kind of an email comparison of what it looks like, well, this is this is the Amazon product review email. So you guys probably seen this before. It's just, they slap your product name and then the logo on here, and it basically has a unfilled star that you can click on, right? And with sample feedback for his product email, so we just try to make it similar, but you can really do anything you want. But this allows you to put in your logo. You can make the picture bigger. You can even create a custom button. You can put in the same star button. So it just allows you more flexibility on what you want to say, and this will definitely get you higher conversions. So now let's say you get, the other topic I want to talk about was like responding to negative reviews. So let's say once you start sending out these emails and you start getting negative reviews, like what do you do? So a lot of people don't do this, and a lot of companies, most of the big companies, Amazon, all do this. So if you go on some of the top listings, you'll see that if you go through the negative reviews, and you'll see there's usually a comment here. If you click on this comment, the bigger companies will always have someone comment on these negative reviews. So why do you want to comment on these negative reviews? Because you can no longer identify who's reviewing your products anymore. So the only way you can actually respond is through the Amazon review page. So for example, this is like a Seagate product, I think it's a hard drive. So you can see this is kind of what they're writing here. They're basically telling them they're sorry, right? And then they give you like a reason, they give you a way to reach out to them. And most companies offer full compensation or replacement. And this gives them this is actually within TOS. So if you actually read the responding to reviews on the Seller Central help guideline, it actually allows you to put in your phone number or customer service link, things like that, to contact them. So why is this important? Well, it's not so much that the person that left the review is going to come back and read it, because they're not going to get a notification that someone responded to it. It's more for prospective customers that are researching your products these days, because top products these days, pretty much all are 4 and 4.5 stars, right? And as a buyer, the smarter buyers, what they do when they shop is they actually go into these products, and to distinguish difference, they read the negative reviews, and they want to find out what's wrong with this product. Now, if the product has, something fundamentally wrong, that's one issue. But if it's something that's, like this hard drive crashed and delete all their files, and they read that there's a comment on it, and the manufacturer wrote that, hey, we're going to, send you a free replacement or whatever, that gives you a lot more confidence to buy this product. So this is why you need to respond to negative reviews. Kind of running short on time, so I'm going to kind of just go through, some of these other things. So the other things that you want to kind of do these days is monitor your products, because things are chaotic right now. There's products that you can't sell anymore. There's listings that are no longer FBA. A lot of listings are getting suppressed. So there's a lot of black hat sellers out there that are actually taking advantage of what's going on right now. So, they're trying to jump on your old listings, sell your products. They're influxing your listing with positive reviews and negative reviews. And the reason why they're doing that is Amazon now has an algorithm that looks at your review velocity. So if you have too many reviews coming in too quickly, they'll actually suspend your listing. So these are all tactics that people are doing right now to get you off Amazon. So things like people changing your title, your images, your description, your categories. A lot of sellers are seeing that their products are being changed to adult category. And then because of adult category, it really kills your search results, because once you're in adult category, your search results is limited. So what we suggest you do is, if you don't have brand registry, definitely get brand registry. It's going to help a lot. It's not going to eliminate all these problems, but at least it gives you a little bit of protection. It can expedite some of these issues with Amazon. So definitely recommend you get brand registry if you have it. Now, quickly talk about how can Feedback Whiz help you guys. Well, we can help automate, customize your seller and product review emails. We actually monitor listing changes, activities, monitor and manage all your product reviews. And we have a new product and loss tool that's coming out that's really going to help you guys identify, which products are doing really well. It's pretty much state of the art. It's got, all the API data integrated in from all different categories. So you're going to exactly know how much money you're actually making, which, across all marketplaces, and compare different brands and all those kind of things. So that's going to come out in a few weeks. Quickly, with email automation, you can customize emails, you can make templates, you can put in pictures, you can A/B test, send out specific times, send emails, different type of emails to like repeat buyers or, products that you have promotions for, creating buttons, these are all things we're doing. We even imported the same review request email that Amazon sends out. So if you guys are scared about getting suspended, you can use your same template, same subject line, automate it with our system as well. And then we're also going to release a review automation request tool soon, which doesn't use a Chrome extension. So this will actually go through and will do it on your behalf. So you don't have to use a Chrome extension. You don't have to have your browser open at the same time. And then you can automate and, so this is coming out very shortly. With product review management, we grab every single review off Amazon. So if you're managing, if you're selling 50 products, obviously you can't manage all the reviews that come in. So we do, email notifications for, any review rating, check keywords, titles. You can import all these ASINs directly. You can group them. You can distinguish between reviews and ratings. You can put notes, reports. You can download everything in a CSV file. So reviews that disappear from Amazon is actually in our database. So you can actually download it and then compare it. And if Amazon removed, there's been a lot of review purges recently. A lot of people don't know. So with our system, we have all that data saved. So you can actually go back, download it, reviews that are gone, go back to Amazon. You can tell them, hey, why are these reviews removed? And a lot of times, Amazon stores and stuff, they can put it back if for a specific reason. So these are all things we can do. With listing alerts, we have, hijacker alerts, buy box changes, title changes, item. So all these listing type of activities we monitor for, every 15 minutes. You can send out these emails out to 5 different email addresses. So for power sellers that have a lot of listings, this is definitely something you want to have on, especially with all the stuff that's going on right now. And with our new profits tool, I'll just give you guys a sneak peek. No one's seen this before right now, so I'm giving you guys some quick screenshots, but this is a very, very thorough breakdown of everything that you sell on Amazon, full customization. You can put in, cost of goods. You have, there's a lot of stuff that Amazon doesn't calculate through API. For example, like how much money you spend on photography, like the packaging material. These are all things you can aggregate together for each product. And within each product, you can sort it. You can compare it between different marketplaces. You can see, my sales of Canada versus US, right? I can create custom tags for, certain brands and compare the sales of those brands. So there's a lot of analytics and data in here that we're going to get out for you guys to really help you guys identify profitable products, which ones are not doing well. And especially right now, you should be focused on trying to get a lot of inventory to FBM right now because FBA is overloaded. So this allows you to gather all that data and analytics and compare it. And we just announced this today. So all first month subscriptions for April, the next month, we're going to donate to the Direct Relief Charity Fund. So 100% donation. So you guys can all get a 30-day trial, and you can use promo code OneStep to get 50% off your first month. And if you guys want to sign up, you can sign up through this donate link here. We have more information on the Direct Relief Charity and how they were helping with COVID-19. And that's all I got.
That's amazing, Hanson, and especially, thank you so much for doing that, donating 100%, first month subscription. What a great cause, thank you so much. And thanks for, offering discount to our members. We've got one question from Mike. I think Ken already answered that, and you have answered that again. So yeah, so we have got one question from Yev. Hanson, if you want to take a look at that.
So Yev, the review purge, basically we're getting the information from the Amazon website, right? So if you have been monitoring this whole time, then we'll have that data. But if you just started monitoring the product, then we're only going to be able to see what Amazon shows. So unfortunately, if it's after the purge, we're not going to know. But for people that have been monitoring your product consistently, we'll have that data, and we can go back as far as possible. So if you have 5 years of reviews, we can go back and collect the 5 years for you. So.
Amazing, yeah. And I've got one question for you, Hanson. How is that the new write a product, request a product review button? helping out? Are you guys seeing any increase rate in the reviews percentage? Like,
Yeah, definitely there's good benefits of it, because what the difference between the request review button and the buyer seller messaging emails is that they're two different mechanisms. The request review is not going through buyer seller messaging, and buyer seller messaging has their own opt out sellers, right? Opt out buyers. So a lot of people have opted out in the past, like probably like 25 to 30% of buyers have opted out. So which really hurts. Now this review request button has a separate opt out mechanism. So it's a different group of people. So right now, because of that, it's new that we've seen that the conversions are pretty good, because it's reaching out to more people. However, it's the same time. Over time, people are going to start opting out because they have the same option to opt out of this email if they wanted to. So they feel like it's too annoying, they're getting all the time, they can opt out of it too. So,
okay.
but yeah, when they first released, we definitely saw the conversions were really good. But now it's like it's starting to come down a little bit, just because it's been out for a while, and like I said,
People are opting out.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hanson. And we might have some questions for you, but that's going to be end of all the presentations. So I'm going to go back to Yev. He has joined us back. So Yev, it's over to you now. So let's
Thank
get
you.
started on.
All right, thank you. Let's try round two. I'll keep my video off and I switch connection. Hopefully this is better. As I'm talking now, just kind of like thumbs up. Is it better or about the same as before? Okay.
Better, much better.
All right, great. So I'll jump right into Facebook ads and some of the strategies kind of mixed around beginners and advanced. So just as a comparison point, some data here, and this is just industry-wide, is that we know that the conversion rates on Amazon are much higher than conversion rates on your website. So for example, just 15% when someone is on Amazon, they purchase, and this varies quite a bit. If there's branded PPC going on, or on your to your website, it's around 2 to 3%, usually cost-wide. So when people start running Facebook ads to Amazon, there's all kinds of scenarios that could happen, and conversion usually really, really low. So nowhere close to the Amazon conversion rates, way lower than website conversion rates. Again, it varies quite a bit. So in this presentation, I'll give you some tips of what brands are doing to kind of be on the higher end of conversion rates when you're sending Facebook traffic from someone having a social experience to a shopping experience. And basically, I'm going to talk about there's a different pathways that are, so for you to be aware of the different ways of how you should be running Facebook traffic, and that there are different options. So if your traffic isn't converting or it's really expensive, that just know there's other options as well. So just to kind of like start one row at a time, is that it's common to use some sort of messenger platform that's geared for Amazon sellers. So like ManyChat, the common one. And when you're running this traffic, it depends how you're doing it. So the conversion rates vary quite a bit. So actually somebody purchasing on Amazon, but basically one common way is that people they either have like high discounts or there's rebate, doing find buy in some way. There's a lot of material out there. You can kind of like look up some of that, but it's usually really high. But the trade-off is that the audience quality is really low. So you have to keep that in mind. If you're not having all of these discounts, maybe you have a longer customer journey, more touch points with a potential customer, conversion rate is going to be much lower, but it's harder to be profitable. So when there's all kinds of scenarios you could be doing, and then I'll kind of like show you some of the best practices of these, is that there's different landing pages that are geared towards Amazon sellers, where usually you're trying to exchange a email address for some sort of coupon code. That's where, again, conversion rates are typically higher, but the audience quality is usually lower. And then the other route, which usually more advanced Facebook advertisers and marketers are using, where it's to your own website or your own landing page builder, something that's more complex than just landing page for Amazon sellers. And this is where you have more complex funnels and customer journeys. You can get into content marketing, educating consumer, but this gets really hard. So it gets either way more expensive, or even though in the long term, this is probably the most sustainable, it's a bit challenging to do. You have to measure effectiveness of your campaigns later on. So when running Facebook ads, one of the things that happens really, really often, this is what I'm seeing through the software across the Amazon sellers that they have this problem of running ads and basically quitting on the campaign way too soon, because what's common in Facebook ads, if we're looking at this graph, this just happens so often, is that this bottom graph is cost per purchase. So this is a website purchase, but also the exact same thing for Amazon purchase in your Facebook ad manager, that initially the cost per purchase is really high and it's fluctuating because you're feeding data into Facebook. You're running campaigns, you're probably testing some images, and it's all over the place and usually really high, where average was over $100 cost per purchase. And stabilizes really some sort of tipping point or threshold where the cost per purchase is down. And then at that point, it actually has a chance of being profitable. Your Facebook ads to Amazon or how you're running the campaigns for it to be profitable. So this is very common that Amazon sellers, they never make it past the stage because they either are not testing enough, because in this phase you have to be testing a lot of creatives, a lot of audiences, lots of different objectives. So that those are some of the examples I'm going to show you. But very common for Amazon sellers compared to just Facebook advertisers that that optimize and run ads to their website. Amazon sellers don't do this enough. So this is where you kind of get through this phase where you bring your cost per purchase or other metrics, cost per message or cost per click, you have to bring it down, and then it's improved over time. So when you're running the ads, you have sort of checklist of for you to know what's going on and for you to switch to a different strategy. But when I had this potentially complex slide, we're like, all right, there's all of these different things you can do. You have to know which one you're in, regardless what option you choose, what pathway. After you do it, you look at your results, you're gonna know, all right, well, where else do I switch? Like, what do I test next? And you need some sort of process for that. So normally if the costs are too high, meaning your cost per message is too high or your cost per click, most of the time it has something to do with your career. And there's other presentations that I've done and others have done, basically like how to improve your creative, how to test more, exactly how Henson was saying with split testing the email subject line, where you have to test enough stuff. And over time, that's how you get the costs down and how you get ahead of other Facebook advertisers. So I'm not going to talk about that in detail. I'm going to get kind of like to the next level, which is, well, then are you conversion Amazon? Are you actually bringing in a high quality audience? And this is usually something funnel related, the customer journey. What is that process when somebody sees your ad, what they go through until they actually on Amazon? And then some of the ranking effects, we'll get to that in a second. So what I mean by evaluating your data, when you're looking at your Facebook ad manager and you're looking at something like cost per click, in this example, cost per message. This is very common for Amazon sellers. They're creating a campaign, and whether it's a ranking campaign or just or they're just audience building, and they're looking at cost per message, many times it's actually misleading because it's very top of funnel. It's kind of the beginning of the journey. It's either like a very cold audience. So in this case, here's the lowest cost per message, the second row. There's a lot of other ads that have way higher cost per message, so they're probably just like not good creatives, not good ads. But you have to have metrics that are more low in the funnel. So in this case, this is how we get all of this data. And this is what Zone Tracker helps with, but you can do this manually in different ways too, where you're getting purchase data, Amazon purchase data back in Facebook through offline conversion or Facebook API. There's ways where you can do this. So you see that the cost per purchase is way lower on this first row, this campaign, but it had a cost per message. So the reason I'm misleading, many Amazon brands do so. A lot of your competitors are basically doing this, is that they're running these campaigns, and then like this is recently, and then the next weeks after this, they're probably gonna choose the second row if they don't have purchase data. So they're gonna let these campaigns run, but at a higher cost per purchase than they should be. So this is why you have to consider getting in kind of lower funnel data back into your Facebook ad manager to interpret the data. So very specific optimizations for you to do. So let's have a very basic chatbot flow or messenger flow where you're trying to communicate with your customer. Usually when you're choosing that messaging objective, it's kind of very top of funnel. You're just telling Facebook to get you more objectives. But what you need to be doing, this is kind of like just that next level, and I'll have one more after this, is that you have to choose some sort of Facebook objective that's lower in the funnel. So get conversions in there, some sort of pixel link or event where Facebook is optimizing for more of these users that actually get through your entire messenger bot and get to the end. So this is one of the things that still a lot of Amazon sellers are not doing. It's a little bit harder to set this up. Still, like, it's easy now, but this is very easy to do, and most sellers aren't doing it. And now Facebook is smart. They're just going to get you a lot of Facebook messages, but necessarily a great audience. So it's a very short-term strategy. So something that's much newer is that, so if you're asking for, so this is actually common, you're probably asking for some sort of customer information in that bot flow. And if you have something for Amazon order ID and you're tagging it, that way you know that the customer entered their Amazon order ID, you can actually then, whether it's through Zonker, this is actually actually haven't even announced it anywhere, so you guys are actually one of the first to hear it, but you can do this manually too, where taking Amazon order information or customer information, and through the Facebook API, you're sending it back from basically like ManyChat or whatever chatbot platform you're using back to Facebook. So then this optimization is more effective, where you know Amazon customers are completing this flow, they're taking the action that you want them to do, and then Facebook is much smarter of making this more efficient. So back to the slide where you're looking at your cost per message, you can actually switch focusing to those lower funnel metrics, cost per purchase or cost per custom convert, which is clicking a link that's at the end of that funnel. So this is one of those things where a lot of Amazon sellers aren't things like this, and I have a couple more tips, but usually I present like way too many different tips. I want to keep it simpler, focusing on something related to this, where whether it's through your, let me back to the slide, where some sort of landing pages, own pages, try to add custom conversions that are lower in the funnel, where you know people are engaging with your emails, your website, but that's all pixel data that is then coming back to Facebook, or it's purchase data that's coming back to Facebook. I also have eBay in there because you could do the exact same thing where you're running Facebook ads, you're putting eBay purchase data back into Facebook, so then Facebook can optimize even better for eBay customers. So that would already be ahead of a lot of competitors doing. So related to that, so this is kind of like testing different objectives, making sure you're not just doing cost per message. That this is a very common question. What objective do I choose when I'm running Facebook ads? And in a way, it's the wrong question to ask, because that's what a lot of advertisers do, and they choose an objective that makes sense, like messages, and then you get a lot of messages, or some sort of website conversion. But what you have to be doing is testing all of these different objectives, and even though some of them are going to get you more clicks or messaging replies or video views, kind of depending which one you choose, or you're able to put Amazon purchases as a conversion, or store traffic, sending in this in as an offline conversion, that even though Facebook is going to optimize differently, you're going to be looking at the most important metric, which is usually cost per purchase. It's like, what is the actual goal they want? So when a lot of your competitors and Amazon sellers are running ads and they're asking, what objective do you choose? Like, don't ask that question. Just duplicate as many as you can, and then look at the metrics of what's one. This is the same thing as like, what's the best headline in your email? Well, what is the best objective? Because each one is going to give Facebook more room to play around with, like finding different pockets of audience when you're choosing the different objectives and looking at your data. So for this one, actually finishing up here, and then I'm going to talk about geo-ranking again a little bit, what I started talking about in my first round before ended. But so in optimization flow, there's a lot of data here, so I don't want to talk about this slide too much, but just be aware of the funnel and how you're testing. A lot of Amazon sellers, they only have a small number of campaigns, and they're not either adding retargeting to their campaigns. This is like very common for just normal Facebook advertiser sales to your website, but a lot of Amazon sellers aren't doing this. Just keep track of where your campaigns are, that whichever of these arrows you're going through, at some point, you need to know that you have a campaign set up that's for this exact goal, where you found some campaigns that are getting you high click-through rates. All right, great. Save those campaigns. Make sure you come back to them, but that you know that it's either top of funnel or bottom of funnel, and is it geared towards your website or to your ad? Even some of the most advanced Facebook advertisers are focused on their website. So we know there's spillover sales happening. Traffic is going to the website, but people are buying on Amazon anyway. That's how we have all of this data through Zon Tracker. But even in the most advanced advertisers, they're not creating separate campaigns for Amazon. So that's already an advantage that you have. If you want to get off of Amazon a little bit more, sending traffic to your website, kind of building up your audience, your email list, or your chatbot lists, add targeting campaigns that then do bring people back to Amazon, because, all right, you send a lot of traffic and 99% of the website visitors didn't buy, and you're retargeting, maybe like caught a few people bought on your website, but not everybody. All right, send them to Amazon. So you capture those and track that as well. So then this is coming back to where you're testing. You need to have that different types of funnels and different customer journeys to try to have higher conversion rate. And then the part 4 is the ranking effective. So I'm gonna actually come back to ranking, where now we know that all of these different factors are important for ranking on Amazon. If you force one sale into Amazon, and whether it's a real customer or a rebate or a discount, Amazon may reward you with one more customer. Your listing may start ranking higher. And whether it's going to be long-term or not, if you're going to stick the landing, if it's going to be volatile or not, that's a whole question. But usually, if your ranking is increasing, you're doing something right. But in most cases, your ranking starts dropping. And is it because where regions are important, where your inventory is important? Actually, I don't have a slide in here, but we can track mobile and desktop ranking separately as well. So is it because all of your traffic is mobile only, but Amazon knows that desktop purchases should be happening? So they see kind of like weird metrics happening that, all right, why are, there's this, someone is sending ManyChat traffic and it's all mobile purchases. That may be weird data to Amazon. So make sure you're diversifying your funnel. That way, for the rankings to be effective, even we through third-party software is measuring this, that we know that there's differences. So Amazon totally knows all of this data. So that's where you have to start diversifying some of your marketing to basically to compensate for that, to know that Amazon is measuring all of this. So one very quick takeaway is, especially right now with, so this is an inventory map, depending where the different Amazon warehouses are. Usually you send it and then Amazon to a distribution center, and then Amazon redistributes it to different warehouses. So depending where your inventory is, then your rankings are going to vary based on that. So if you're doing external marketing and usually you choose automatic placement in your Facebook ads or your Google ads. So every single state is going to see the ads, and usually, California is going to get more of the ad spend because it's a bigger state. But then you're going to have all of these regions seeing your ads where, maybe you're having trouble there with inventory. So then you should do more targeted advertising. Don't send ads. Be more focused with your budget, because one, that the ranking is actually different, but also because, especially right now, maybe in certain states, your inventory isn't there, or you can see that some competitors, maybe they have more FBM or they have FBA on-site, they have a lot more fulfillment options, so they're not losing any ranking, but you are, depending on your type of fulfillment you're doing. So if your FBM warehouse is only in one location, then I would probably target the states around that, just so you increase the chance of it being 1-2 day shipping wherever your FBM fulfillment is. So to finish up, just 2 more slides, and so kind of putting the evidence together from the previous slides about kind of how rank differences, some of the things that we're tracking that we know rank is varying because of a lot of different factors. So usually when you check your ranking, that, all right, here's 5 products and the ranking is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's the rich position. But that's actually true. The rank, we can't tell this from most other tools, or if you're kind of just checking from your phone or your team members are checking on desktop. It's actually a combination of all of those regions and mobile desktop. So when we know a combination of all of that, you can know the true ranking. So in this case, this isn't ranked number 2 and number 3. We can see that it's 3.6, 4.3 when we're accounting for all of the other variability. So this number 1 product, it's actually safer from these ones because the 3.6, it's not like 2.0 where it's like really close. So we can tell that the second and third product are kind of like battling each other. They're like really close in the ranking. The number 2 and number 3 spot can switch anytime because maybe one of these products has an advantage in certain regions or certain like warehouse locations. I mean, it could be a lot of factors. Compared to this number 4th spot, it's like a couple of rank positions away, even though technically it's the 4th position. So knowing these details a little bit better will give you more confidence, either being more aggressive in your external marketing or knowing how certain products or certain keywords have more variability or fluctuation. And to finish off, I want to kind of give this resource to you guys. So in ZonTracker, the pieces of data that we're pulling, and this is across many Amazon sellers, is that you can see Amazon sales based on like percentage per state. So for you, let's say you would know that California is 13.9% of your sales, and you can download all of this data yourself from Amazon and kind of like all the calculations and know where your sales are distributed. But in this tool, you can see how you compare to other Amazon sellers. And this is becoming even more important now as regions are important. And where is your warehouses? Where is the inventory? So for example, if it's a negative number, that means your sales in California are actually lower than average than the average Amazon seller. And then you can look at it based on category as well. So if you filter in your category, you could see that California, you're actually you're way worse than other Amazon sellers. Even though it's a top selling state, still then what if you look at Texas, it's a positive number, meaning that you're doing better than other Amazon sellers in those states. If you have a limited budget or you want to do some experimental marketing, I would probably advertise in Texas and Florida first, as opposed to everywhere or California, because you're doing worse than other sellers. So if, again, you can kind of bring in another factor like your warehouses, where's the inventory distributed, but this one is more based on how do your sales compare to other sellers. And so this is really cool where you could like either focus your budget, be more effective when you're trying to rank with your Facebook ads, because in Facebook, you can select where you're targeting. So this could be more of a kind of like a moral approach, deciding where to advertise. And so if you go to the bit.ly link, you're basically going to like bypass the order form, and I'm just going to give access for a few months to like this tool where you can see your exact data compared to competitors. You're not going to get access to the attribution because that's like for the paid software. But for this new one, there's another feature in there that you can have access to. So just like this data that might give you like a really big advantage when you're thinking about where to advertise or how do your sales compare to others. So hopefully that's interesting for you right there. So that's it. That's the end. I could get in a lot more detail into any of those slides, but let me know what questions are, and could definitely have any follow-up, any details with either Facebook tactics or kind of more like bigger picture frameworks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Yev. I have sent the bit.ly link in the chat box, so you can go check it out. Thank you so much, Yev. That was like really cool stuff. Some of the advanced stuff, definitely worth it. So Yev, I think we have a question for you if you want to look at the chat.
Oh yeah, I see it, Quinn. ZonTracker monitors where AMZ has my inventory per state. Yes, but it's the AMZ chat, the tool that does that. So ZonTracker is my software that's everything Facebook attribution related. So where sales are coming from and kind of like the advertising part is ZonTracker. And AMZ, the other tool, is where it shows where your inventory is per state and also how you're ranking per state. And there's other metrics in the utility of keywords. Exactly. So one really cool thing in there is that like this is really like I don't see other tools are doing this. I don't know if this is meaningful yet, but I'm starting to build this down where based on these regions and like inventory, and we can tell the volatility of keywords. If you're trying to rank for a certain keyword, what we're doing is we're looking at what are all of the other competitors for that keyword, and how do they vary across regions. And what this means is that you can look at different keywords and see that one has high volatility, one has low volatility. So what does that mean? If it's really high volatility, that means it may be easier to rank, but it may be also easy to actually lose rank after you get it. So even though there's like high volatility, meaning that the top 10 spots, like the competitors are always in and out, so there's high volatility. So maybe you're comfortable with that marketing strategy where you want to like hit really hard, you'll kind of get in there, sneak some sales, but you're probably going to lose that rank right away. While the ones with low volatility, that means it's high stability. Maybe you're thinking more long-term, you know it's going to be much harder to actually get in there and start ranking where the sales are considerable. But once you get there, you're probably going to stay there. So we're kind of seeing how volatility is playing a role. And I didn't have a screenshot here, but we're tracking desktop and mobile references. And we see for some brands, there's a really big difference how you're ranking on mobile compared to desktop. But even more importantly, the volatility of mobile versus desktop, meaning that, yeah, your desktop may be ranking higher because maybe that demographic, maybe Amazon just knows those customers are always shopping on desktop more. But when you consider the volatility, that's when, all right, this is when like when you do rank effectiveness, is there because more or less volatility will help you decide, do you need to run desktop as your placement or mobile, or do you need to optimize your listing and kind of have it be geared towards like even desktop more? I know there's a lot of talk about, all right, make sure your listing is mobile optimized. Yes, that makes sense if your audience is shopping on mobile, but if they're not, kind of consider that too. Sorry, that was a long answer, went on a tangent there.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ev. So if there is any questions, we're going to ask you after the presentations. We're kind of running short on time. We're going to go to Meghla. She's in Singapore right now. And before I go to her, I have a question from Facebook Live. Is there any event coming in Edmonton? Not at the moment because of the COVID-19. Once the things get back in control, we will be having a meetup in Edmonton and Calgary, hopefully soon. So over to Meghla now. Hey, Meghla, how's it going?
Hey, great. It's going great. So let me quickly share my screen over here. How much time do you think I have?
Yeah, we have time. Yeah, that's
10 minutes.
Let's see what you got.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about sourcing from India. So real quick, first of all, some background. I've been working in the sourcing industry, mostly with global sources for about 19 years now. I worked in the Philippines, China. I was based in China. Oops, what happened? I was based in China for about 9 years, and I organize events for e-commerce sellers. And I'm also the founder of India Sourcing Trip, which is a guiding sourcing tour to India. Okay, so why source from India? I'm going to go over a couple of the things that I think differentiate India from other sourcing markets and why Amazon sellers should consider sourcing from India. So first of all, there are a lot of unique high-end, handcrafted products that you'll find in India that are not available in other countries. And these are in most cases very attractive and eye-catching, which are great for e-commerce. There are lots of local indigenous handicraft and product and fabric styles that are not found in other countries. So if you're innovative and creative, you can actually do a lot with the materials and the products that are available in India. And of course, sometimes these products can command higher prices. I also do need to point out, I should have mentioned this before, India is of course currently under lockdown. So just be aware of that. You can't go and source products right now. I mean, you can start looking for products and start talking to suppliers, but there's no sourcing or manufacturing happening as of now. Okay, so coming back to this, also, if you do some of these products, they're not necessarily going to be selling millions, because they're not like garlic presses that cheap garlic presses or cheap silicone based products that will sell in high quantities, but you will be able to be more profitable with these products because they're going to be selling fewer but at a higher price and at a higher profit margin. So if you have a variety of such products, then all of the sales and the profits kind of adds up, and that can make a nice business. Also, when you sell these kinds of products, you're kind of under the radar of black hatters because they are mostly targeting very high volume and those kinds of products that can rake in millions. But these products are kind of the more slow and steady kinds of items. So you also have to keep in mind that lead times may be a bit longer in some cases because these are mostly handcrafted products. Another advantage is that low MOQs are accepted by suppliers. Of course, it varies from product category to category. For example, in textiles and garments, they may not be that flexible because they have fabric minimums from the textile mills. But for other products like home decor items or eco-friendly products, you may find that they accept lower quantities. And in fact, we were at a trade show in October in Delhi, and the typical MOQ of exhibitors over there was like 200 to 500 pieces. But when we talked to them a little bit further, they were even willing to do a 50-piece trial order, which is great for Amazon. I mean, this is really unheard of in China. If you talk to them about 200 pieces, they won't even look at you a second time. So I think this is a great advantage for Amazon sellers. You can actually test products. And then there's a lot of locally available raw materials that is a huge advantage over countries like Vietnam and Indonesia that may not have access to all of these raw materials, and the raw materials need to be sourced from China. So in cases where the recent COVID-19 supply chain disruption in China, what happened was a lot of importers were going to other alternative sourcing markets like Vietnam, Indonesia. However, the issue was those countries depend on China for the raw materials. And so even though they have the production facilities and everything, they still couldn't make products because the raw materials were not coming in from China. So that kind of issue you'll have less of in India, specifically if you source products where the raw materials are available locally. And the typical raw materials are cotton, silk, jute, marble, metal, wood, bamboo, and there's a lot of leather as well. A lot of the naturally occurring materials. In fact, that's India's strength. And cotton is a huge category from India. So everything, all types of cotton-based products are very popular, whether it's apparel, home furnishings, accessories. And then products made from natural materials are actually very competitive. You won't really find a lot of plasticky or silicone-based products over there. Another advantage I see is that typically Indian suppliers, they have more respect for IP. And this is not like a blanket statement as such. It's not like when you source from India, your IP will never, ever be compromised. There are bad actors everywhere. But typically I found that working with the more export-focused professional suppliers, you'll find that they are more respectful of the contracts, and they won't openly share your designs with other buyers or post it on their website, or they won't themselves start selling it on Amazon. Of course, it varies from company to company, but typically that's what I found. A lot of companies also invest in their own R&D and design development, so they're kind of aware of the fact that IP and design needs to be protected. Of course, they will customize your designs and put your logo. So there's a lot of OEM happening there, just like it is in China. And currently, most suppliers don't sell directly on Amazon. However, I see that changing in the coming years because, in fact, Amazon themselves are encouraging manufacturers to sell directly on Amazon. But as of now, you won't really find your suppliers competing with you on Amazon. Another huge advantage is that most suppliers that you deal with, the communication will be smoother because English is their main language. And a lot of these companies are family-run businesses that they've been doing business for a couple of generations. And the second or third generation is now running the factory, and they're mostly educated overseas. They've either done their masters or something in the US or UK, and then they come back and manage the family business. So a lot of factories are like that. So you find that there's less chance of miscommunication when you're talking to them. They'll understand your requirements easier, and then there's no need for translators when you're going there to visit factories or trade shows. Another big advantage is that your contracts can be in English and they can be enforceable. In China, you do have to have a bilingual contract to ensure that it is enforceable and you can actually litigate. But that's not the case in India because the entire legal system is actually in English. Of course, there's no tax on India-made products as of now, so that's another advantage. And in fact, a lot of people started looking to source from India and other alternative markets around 2 years ago when this whole trade war between the US and China started. Okay, let's quickly look at what are some of the differences when you source from India versus China. So first of all, you find that a lot of the suppliers in India are smaller scale and handcrafted, but that doesn't mean that they cannot scale and they cannot cater to higher volume orders. The way it's organized in India is that the factories are small and the full-time employees that they have in the factories are less, but they outsource a lot of production. And so if they do get bigger orders, they can quickly, just hire more artisans or more workers, or they have clusters in various communities and smaller cities and villages. They have clusters of artisans that actually go to a community center and they manufacture these products. So you can source, in larger quantities as well, but the companies themselves are smaller, and it's good in a way because that makes them more flexible. If they're fewer orders, and they're not spending that much, but if they're larger orders, then they can quickly scale up production. Whereas in China, of course, a lot of the production is automated, large scale. Of course, there are smaller factories as well. And then, as I mentioned, there's more respect for IP. One of the disadvantages is that in India, you'll find there are fewer product categories that you can source. And I'll go over the products that you can source in a bit, but you can't find any electronics or electrical products or plastic kind of products. It's mostly the naturally occurring materials that can be sourced from India. In China, of course, you can source anything and everything. Also for India, there's not a lot of information available online about how to find suppliers and how to vet suppliers. Whereas for China, there are plenty of blogs and YouTube tutorials, and all of the experts basically talk about sourcing from China. But I think this is an advantage because there is a higher barrier to entry for sourcing from India. So if anybody takes the time and effort to learn how to source from India, then they are in a better position, and they are able to differentiate themselves from everybody else who's just sourcing from China. Another thing that you'll find is that sometimes the logistics providers in India, they're not familiar with FBA requirements, but that is changing to some extent. There are certain freight forwarders that understand how to manage these, but you just need to make sure that you're working with a freight forwarder that knows how to manage FBA shipments. In China, of course, there are plenty of service providers that can do this. Also in India, infrastructure is not as developed. So you'll find maybe that the ports are not that efficient, or customs can be a bit cumbersome. But if you have the right partner, they will manage everything for you. But you just need to be aware that there may be some delays, or there may be some hitches. For example, during the monsoon season in India, you'll find that a lot of times some of the roads get flooded in major cities like Mumbai. Mumbai is where one of the major ports is, where most of the exports go out from. And so, that gets flooded, and that affects logistics. So just keep that in mind when you're sourcing from India. And then typically, labor costs are lower in India, whereas in China, they're high and they're actually increasing. And that's the reason labor-intensive products are actually better produced, and they're more competitively priced in India as compared to China. In fact, a lot of the garment manufacturers and bigger brands and retailers, they have been moving out of China, and they've been diversifying to Bangladesh and India, Sri Lanka for their garment production for about, I think, 5 or 10 years now. So a lot of the low-end production of garments has already moved out from China. Also, in India, you find that there's a very large domestic market that you as Amazon sellers, as global Amazon sellers, can cater to. So there's an Amazon India marketplace where you can sell to. And it's relatively easier to sell to Amazon India because it's all in English. There are, of course, certain things that you have to be aware of. For example, you need a company in India, and you need to, in order to set up an Amazon India account, and you also need a GST number and all of those things. But there are service providers who can do that, but it's all in English. Whereas unlike in China, there is a large domestic market, but it's not easy to sell into because language is a huge barrier. And of course, Amazon is not there. So you have to sell on Taobao, and it's a whole different culture selling on Taobao. Here's a quick comparison. This is a buyer that had done this comparison in 2018, and they were sourcing bags, and they compared the prices in Vietnam and India. So it was about 37% lower in India, and it's mostly because the monthly wages are pretty low. However, the productivity of workers is not as high in India. The productivity is much higher in China. But despite that, the overall cost was lower. So, it of course varies from product to product, and this is just one example. But typically, products that are more labor intensive, you'll find will be cheaper in India. Okay, let's just quickly look at what kinds of products you can source from India. So first of all, the biggest category for Amazon sellers is home decor and gift products. And these are mostly made from metal, wood, ceramic, jute, and other naturally occurring materials. So metal, specifically, there's a production hub in the north of India called Moradabad. That's a city where all of the metal work is done. And this city was actually established, I don't know, hundreds of years ago as a production center for metal, and they have been passing on, the craft and the production capabilities from generation to generation. Of course, the factories have evolved and changed a lot over time, and they're more export focused now. They don't really cater to the domestic market. So you'll see that all of the products that they offer, they are actually suited to the taste of Western consumers. And a lot of these companies are really large companies that do millions of dollars in exports. They exhibit at overseas trade shows to showcase their products. There's a lot of home, kitchen, and tableware as well, again, made from metal specifically, not a lot of plastic products. So you'll find flatware, for example, bar accessories, barware, that's a really big category. Also furniture, mostly wooden furniture, furnishings, and made-ups. Again, these are mostly made of cotton. And rugs is also a big category. And these rugs, you'll find that they're quite innovative and they use different kinds of materials. For example, there's this one type of rug that's a braided rug that's made from jute and waste fabric. So whatever waste fabric there is, in factories, they kind of weave them together with jute and make these really beautiful rugs that are actually selling quite well on Amazon. And then there's also this concept of rugs made from recycled plastic water bottles or recycled PET. That's in fact a very interesting product category that some people I know they're exploring that category. And this is a kind of an eco-friendly material. So, I mean, they produce not only rugs, but other things like cushion covers and even garments now from this material. Fashion is also a big category. So there's jewelry, apparel, accessories, footwear, and then textiles and apparel, of course, cotton, denim, silk, and wool. You won't find a lot of polyester and nylon kind of fabrics, but those are better in China. But there are increasingly, companies in India that are doing polyester and those kinds of fabrics as well. So, but in some cases, the raw material will have to be imported from China. So just keep that in mind. Leather is a huge category as well. So there's leather jackets, footwear, leather bags, a lot of high quality leather. Sports equipment, cricket, tennis, football, eco-friendly products. So a lot of Amazon sellers are finding success with this. And these are things like, disposable plates made from sugarcane bagasse, which is a very eco-friendly and product. And then there's also things like, disposable plates made from areca palm leaves. That's also very biodegradable and very eco-friendly. That's doing well on Amazon. And then I already mentioned fabric made from PET, recycled water bottles. And then there's a lot of food items that people are doing. So a lot of herbs and spices that are coming out of India nowadays. There's also, if you're a bit more adventurous, tea, coffee, rice, lentils. Those are the kinds of things that you can consider. So these are mostly the products that Amazon sellers would source from India. There's of course a lot of other product categories like engineering products and medical equipment and devices and all. So I have not really covered those categories. This is just to give you an idea of the variety of fabrics that are available in India. Each state, in fact, has a very unique style and a unique type of fabric that they are known for. Each and every state. So you'll find over here, this is a map. I don't know if it's readable, and you'll find that there are very, very unique kinds of styles. Okay, so that's the information I wanted to share. And then there are some resources in case anyone's interested to learn a bit more. I've got a free ebook at this link over here, indiasourcingtrip.ebook. And I've also got a Facebook group that I run. So if you just search for sourcing from India, or you go into this link, you can join the Facebook group. And yeah, I also run a trip, as I mentioned earlier, called India Sourcing Trip. It's held every April and October. We go to an export-focused fair in Delhi. It's called the Indian Handicrafts and Gifts Fair, and it's supposed to be the Canton Fair of India. So the next trip is coming up in October. So in case anyone's interested to learn more about the trip, you can head to indiasourcingtrip.com, or you can also download the ebook, join our mailing list, and be notified when booking opens for the trip.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all for me, Kamaljit.
Perfect. Great presentation. Thank you so much, Meghla. And we have some questions for you in the chat box. Danny's asking, like, what website do you use to source from India?
Okay, so there are a couple of different ways to source products from India. First of all, I would start with Alibaba and Global Sources. If you go to these websites, do a search, and then on the search results page, you can actually filter by country. So that's the first thing to start with. And in fact, these companies do have India suppliers on their platforms. They have offices in India, both of these companies, and there's a lot of competition too. And then some of the other things you can do is just do a Google search, because a lot of these websites are in English, and a lot of times you'll find that the more export focused suppliers, they will rank high on Google. Another thing you can do is look for the exhibitor list of the Delhi Fair. So just search for exhibitor Delhi Fair, and the entire exhibitor list is online. That's another great way to find export focused suppliers. There's another website called India Mart that has a lot of suppliers from India, but that's not very export focused. And I don't recommend that unless you're very familiar with the types of companies in India, because in India, you want to make sure that you're sourcing from export focused companies and not companies that cater to the domestic market. They will have no idea of how to do exports, and you will likely be burnt if you source from those types of companies.
Okay, perfect. And John, I loved your fabric map. Thanks, John. And how long does, Meghla, how long does the sourcing trip last in India that you run? Like, is it for 2 weeks or how
Yeah,
many
so
days?
it's an 8-day sourcing trip, and it combines sourcing, learning, and a bit of cultural immersement as well. So the first thing that we do is we organize a 1-day conference in India to teach people how to source from India, how to find suppliers, how to vet suppliers. So it's a full day conference that we do. And then we spend 3 days at the trade show where we actually guide people on how to talk to suppliers, what kind of information to gather. We have about 10 coaches, e-commerce and sourcing coaches that accompany the group. And we have Tim Jordan as one of the coaches. I'm sure everyone over here is familiar with him. We have Gary Huang, who's also from the US. And then we have a couple of coaches from Australia, Chris Thomas and Margaret Jolly. And then we attend the trade show for 3 days. We do a factory tour as well. We do a Bollywood night. So we just everybody can dress up in their Indian attire and do some dancing. And then we do a day trip to Taj Mahal. So the full day, we leave early in the morning, come back at night. Taj Mahal is in a city called Agra, which is about 4 hours from Delhi. So yeah, and then, on the last day, we do a bit more presentations on how to process all of the products that you've got. And even before we start the trip, we do about, a month before the trip, we do about 5 or 6 pre-trip webinars where we teach people, in case they're very new to Amazon, we'll also help them set up their account and, navigate Seller Central and all of those things.
Definitely, it sounds like really fun, mixture of vacation, adventure, sourcing, business. Yes, sounds really fun. Okay, thank you so much, Meghla. So we'll take questions later after the presentation. So now we're going to have to go to Ken. He's going to talk a little bit about products to sell on Amazon. And I think that's more specific for people who are doing retail arbitrage and online arbitrage. Over to you, Ken.
Yeah, hello. My name is Ken. I'm going to open up my presentation here just really quickly. Just give me 1 sec here. All right, so my name is Ken. I'm going to share my screen here as well. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, like Kamal is, and our other speakers, some of our other speakers. And one of the biggest things I would say is Amazon is a journey, and the biggest thing we need to know is that you have to be in it for the long run. So can everyone see my screen? Just type in the chat box if you see my presentation that says 5 items you can buy today. Okay, perfect. So this presentation is basically 5 items you can buy today. These were researched before, and these are mainly Canada items, and they were researched before Canada closed its shipments in for non-essential items. Okay, so all prices discussed here are pre-Corvette issues. I don't believe in price gouging. I want to give the customer a fair price, even though they're way up in their prices now. There's a link to the presentation on this thing. You can follow along or download it later at your convenience. I've been selling on Amazon since 2015. I currently run a prep center that'll be open soon in Edmonton. That's an expansion of my other one. What I do every day is I run that new prep center, and I also do US prior notices for people exporting groceries, dietary supplements, other things like that for customers, and we're filling out the FDA paperwork for them so they don't have to do it themselves. It's a very tedious task going. Some notes today is number 1 is I use example item number 1 in a lot of my presentations, so don't be upset if you see it a lot. Items 2 and 4 were searched manually by myself with a time limit of 10 minutes. I searched a bunch of websites just looking for something that I could find quickly for this presentation. I'm not really looking all that concerned about sales rank in some of these items. I know everything has a chance to sell on Amazon and will sell if you have enough patience and you don't overbuy. I personally would buy a minimum of 2 of every item that I've listed here if I was still an active seller that was selling arbitrage products. I don't currently do that much. And I highly recommend using cash discounts and buying discount gift cards to bring the cost down even further, because I know that it can do it. More products in your store equals less risk for the majority. An inch deep and a mile long, that's the way I suggest selling if you're doing arbitrage products. So these are the 5 products that I'm going to talk about today. These are the links. So first box is item 1 is craft dinner. I project that you could make 81 cents profit per box after all your costs shipping this item from Canada to the USA. Okay. Item number 2 was to go to Amazon Canada. You buy this today at Toys R Us for $50, and it could go, I project a profit of $19 a unit. Okay, and I have links to the Toys R Us and after that, and I can go through this. I'm just trying to go through these quick, and then I can answer questions. Another thing I saw quickly was this Barbie Dream House. The one thing that scared me on this one was that Amazon used to sell, but I still would try to sell it again. The profit wasn't very high in this one. It only ended up being $1.54. Here's a flip from Indigo on something that doesn't really have any Amazon sellers ever. So it'd be kind of a wild card item. The profit's not very high. And there's another person FBAing it right now. So I don't know if I'd choose this time necessarily, but I want to throw it in here because it's one of the items I researched. Here is an interesting item as well, and I think was never brought to Amazon FBA before in the last 3 months. And it's a Harry Potter dress-up thing, and I thought it'd be an interesting item to consider. The only thing, it was very heavy, but I thought it'd be an interesting item to consider. So in total, each one of these items, I've included some in the Amazon delivered to Amazon costs. Like for this time, I put $5. I don't think it's going to cost $5. I'm including how much you're paying for the box, how much you're paying to put the shipping into Amazon, guessing a good estimate, and how much your supplies and all that would cost. So these were just 5 items that I quickly came up with that I thought would be interesting. These are the links to Amazon website, where they are selling on Amazon and the links to the stores and how much they cost. Skip that one. Extra resources. So to consider, one of the things I'd consider right now is considering merchant fulfill for yourself. I personally know sellers who are making more doing merchant fulfill than they did in FBA. It takes more time for the individual sellers to do this, but your margins can be and will be sometimes higher. Canadians use a forwarder and then use local UPS shipping if you're shipping to the US. Some of the clients that we have are selling out with 30% of the items in day one that it's listed on merchant fulfilled, and by day 5, 67% are sold. That's even before the items are going to FBA. One of the notes I want to say if you're doing merchant fulfilled is to make sure that you are increasing your shipping and handling times, because there eventually will be shortages or delays in the shipping process. Cashback resources. These are a couple cashback sites where you can get money back if you were buying those. So for like Indigo, for example, was giving me a 4%. When I looked at some of these items, the Indigo items was giving me an extra 4% back. The ones at Toys R Us was a 1% back on all my purchases, stuff like that. They all add up to bring more cash into your pocket. Discount gift cards is another way. Instead of paying with your credit card, if it doesn't have a high resource, it doesn't have a high, doesn't give back much cash back, you can use something like this. Sometimes I've got up to 5 to 10% on some of these gift cards at Card Swap or the Ranakin gift card shop. Costco is more for like stores and restaurants and attractions. I've bought 2 gift cards at Gift Card Wild, and they were for extreme discounts. One was like Toys R Us for like 20% off, and the other one was like a Walmart one. So that's a really good resource if they have any there. This is another link to the presentation. I have a YouTube channel. This is my Facebook, some future projects coming to that. And that's my quick presentation. If anyone has any questions, type them in the chat and I can answer some questions now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ken. That was short and sweet with lots of value. Let's see if you've got any questions for Ken. Any questions related to the retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, selling fees, FBA fees, yeah. So if not, we can always ask that in the end. So it looks like, Ken, we're gonna ask you questions later. So far, there's nothing, and we're gonna head to our last speaker. Okay, no, we have one question, Ken.
Okay, I'm just looking it up quickly. What type of service is available for sending grocery to? Okay, so we could send groceries through DYK Post if you're in Alberta, or you could send through cross-border pickups in Ontario. Currently, we don't accepting new clients because we have to service our existing clients. But depending on which region of the country you're at, is what I can suggest for you. So DYK Post in Edmonton, cross-border pickups in Ontario, or the 2 suggestions.
What's the cheapest shipping service if you're going by FM, fulfilled by merchant?
So what I would suggest for fulfilled by merchant is you use a service like GuruShip or eShipper, and you'll probably get UPS or FedEx or something like that. Canada Post is really expensive. Merchant fulfilling in Canada is really expensive. I would use one of those for going to the US or Canada. What constitutes essential versus non-essential? So Amazon is saying stuff like, if you're buying like a DVD for workout, that's not essential. If you're buying stuff like food, like noodles or rice, that's an essential product. What does the scanner in Amazon work well in Canada? So the internal Amazon app, it works well in Canada. Just remember, if I'm looking at an item in a store, I would take a picture of the item and the UPC barcode as well, if I think it has future potential, because I can look up more details at home. because sometimes you can search by title, UPC, or by the image itself. But if you find an item that you think is interesting and you take a picture of it and you take a picture of the UPC, you have that data for later.
Perfect. One more question, Ken. That's from Tommy.
Yeah, so what I would do is I would fulfill by merchant to the US from Canada. That is correct. I would use DYK Post or Stallion or Chit Chats or whatever is near you and send across the border, and then buy local US rates through UPS. I recommend small and light items because the shipping's cheaper and you can always give away free shipping with that.
Perfect. And we'll take more questions later on. We have one more speaker left. It's John and Curtis, so they're gonna share the time. So we have 10 minutes left, and we will be open to all the questions. So it's over to you, Curtis and John.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? My name is Curtis Keeping. I just want to get a gauge of everybody who's in the chat right now. If everybody in here can hear me right now, just put in the chat if you currently sell on Amazon, just to see how many sellers are joined with us today. Yes. Okay, we got a couple of people responding. I sell on Amazon. Okay. Heck yeah. Okay, awesome, guys. So me, I'm much like a lot of the other sellers on here. I sell on Amazon internationally. I sell in Canada and the United States. But what makes us a little different, when I speak for us, I mean my business partner, Jonathan, he was unable to join us today. But when I speak for us, we sell wholesale. So what that means is we're buying products on a large scale for a wholesale price, and then we're selling them to the consumer on Amazon for a retail price. Now, the types of products that we deal in, we only deal with brand name products that are already established. Brands like Hasbro, Mattel, in the toys. And then we deal with some big sport brands like Nike, Adidas. We deal a lot in the grocery categories, some product brand names like Kraft and Dove, Unilever, those sorts of brands. So there's a brand recognition with a lot of those products. So that's what we do basically in a nutshell. Our suppliers take those products that we order and they ship them directly to Amazon for us. So that cuts out the need for a lot of the middlemaning, and it cuts down on a lot of the shipping times and what have you. So that's basically wholesale in a nutshell. And the reason why we started talking about wholesale is because basically we want to lead up to the current epidemic that's going on right now, and what has been happening with Amazon prioritizing a lot of their shipments. And we feel that there's a tremendous opportunity for people who are in the wholesale space right now, and people who are looking to get into Amazon in general. And with that being said, the opportunity is that people are using Amazon a lot more than what they regularly would. A lot of people in Canada and the US, they're not able to actually go out to the retail stores and buy their goods, like their groceries, their toys for their kids, their cleaning supplies, basically anything. They're not able to go out to the retail stores the way they used to. So they're staying at home and they're shopping online. So what we're seeing right now as wholesalers on Amazon selling these brand name products is our sales are going up like 20, 30%, literally since this thing started, because we have the products in stock that the consumer needs. Like we have a lot of grocery products in stock. We have a lot of OTC pharmaceutical products in stock. So we're seeing a rise in our sales. So that's the opportunity. No matter if you're selling private label or if you're in the wholesale business or if you're retail arbitrage, there's a huge opportunity on Amazon right now to service the customer. Even if it's brand name products, it doesn't matter. There's a huge opportunity. People are looking to buy things online. The amount of Prime subscriptions basically have gone up, I think, by like 20%. So that's just telling us that there are a lot of new users on the Amazon platform. So there's a tremendous opportunity right now. So that's basically the wholesale in a nutshell. I wanted to keep it short and sweet. I'm sure there are a lot of people who already understand what that is. They already sell on Amazon. And we just wanted to talk about the opportunity that involves the COVID-19 where there's a lot of people shopping on Amazon. There's a lot of opportunity right now in that. And basically, we'll open it up to any questions. We do have a couple links that we want to drop into the comments. Because of what's going on, a lot of people have not been able to work right now. They have a lot of free time. Myself and Jonathan have created a 4-day training, and it's basically, it goes into wholesale a lot more. And then it's just basically an introduction to wholesale and how to get started, and then a little bit of Amazon background. So we put that together for you guys. We'll put that in the comments. It's completely free. And then also we'll include a link to our YouTube, and then we go over a bunch of different things. You name it, we talk about it on our YouTube channel. So if you're interested in anything about that, we'll also provide a link right there. But we'll open it up for any questions. I'll just refer to the chat right now and see, is there an external marketing or relevant? External marketing, not really. I have heard of some sellers doing some Facebook advertising and some external advertising to drive traffic to their stores, but those stores tend to be themed. Basically, if it's like a brand name toy seller, then they will do external marketing around that and drive their customers to their toy store. But if you have like a general merchandise store, you can do it, but it's a little bit more niche specific, I would say. I'm interested in the 4-day training. Thanks. Okay. How do you find a good supplier? That's a good question. That's usually the most common question that we get is, how do you find a good supplier? We go over that in the training, but I'll just throw it out there. The best way that we find to find suppliers is to go to trade shows in person. Obviously, that way you can meet the suppliers face to face. Let's just say you wanted to find toy suppliers, then a good one would be like the New York Toy Fair. That happens annually every year in New York. If you're looking for general merchandise or electronics, another really good one is ASD. That happens in Vegas twice a year. And then anything else in between, I would head to Google and look for trade shows related to that specific niche. But I hope that answers your question. That's our best way that we found to get the most traction with suppliers, is really getting out there and meeting them face to face. Do you need brand name permission? Do you need brand name permission? Not for every single product. A lot of your suppliers will have authorization to sell the products to Amazon third-party sellers. So let's just say you call up your wholesaler and you're trying to buy these Nerf guns, for example. That supplier will know ahead of time whether or not they can sell you those Nerf guns, and knowing that you would put them on Amazon. So they would tell you, no, sorry guys, can't sell you these products, not allowed to put them on Amazon. That's most good suppliers. Some suppliers just don't know, or maybe they're negligent. So it would be in your best interest, if you're trying to do a sizable purchase, to just make sure that those products are able to be sold on Amazon. But for the most part, we have never ran into a circumstance where we've bought something, listed it, and then have the manufacturer reach out and tell us to take those listings down.
Okay, guys. So now we have some questions for Curtis, and we are open to any kind of questions right now. If you have any questions for Yev, Meghla, or Hanson, Quinn, Ken, just doesn't really have to be related to the wholesale. You can throw your questions, because we will be finishing in about next 15-20 minutes, and we would like to take as many questions as possible. So Curtis, go ahead. You have, I think, 2 questions on the line.
Okay, let me just scroll in here and look. Are health and grocery the main categories? Those are good ones to focus on, because the way I like to think about it is the consumer is going to head to Amazon for not only what they used to buy, like as in like 2 months ago, but they're going to head to Amazon to buy things that they would normally buy in their, their Walmarts or their Walgreens or their CVS. I'm referring to a lot of US stores right now, but they would head there to buy those things, right? Their medications and stuff. So OTC medication, think about servicing their animals, right? People have a real good close spot to their heart when it comes to their animals. So their animal foods, their animal toys, their animal medications. So the pet category itself is wide open on Amazon, and they did that because obviously pets are an essential for the consumer as well. And then industrial and scientific is another one. I'm not sure too many great products lie under that category, but again, anything in the industrial and scientific. Beauty, so like skincare creams, shampoos, deodorants, sunscreens, and not just the essential beauty items, but things like I said, like the makeups and the eyeshadow, that sort of thing is all kind of roped into the to the beauty category itself. Have you had much success changing? The question there is, have I had much success changing other people's listings to change keywords, bullet points, etc.? That's a really good question, Mike. And the answer is yes, we have. Well, a lot of times we'll go in and we'll see that there's not enough information. So we'll go in and we'll put extra pictures, we'll put extra keywords in there. Sometimes because these listings, for anybody who doesn't know, because these listings are able to be edited by anybody who sells on Amazon, they change quite often. So basically the question was, do we have much success going in there and updating and maintaining the listings that we sell on? And again, the answer is yes. If we see something's missing, something's spelt incorrectly, we'll go in and edit that. There have been times where we have edited things only to come back the next day and see that somebody has changed it again. It's perfectly fine, depending on what the product is. It's kind of a case-by-case example, but yeah, it definitely does work sometimes.
Amazing. I think our next question is from Rizwan, and that is for Yev.
Yeah, I see it. If you're running Facebook ads, you expect Amazon ranking to target as much audience as possible. So if you restrict to a limited audience and it doesn't help improve ranking, isn't it a loss situation? So one of the things to keep in mind is that you need to have a very clear goal of what the Facebook ads for, and most commonly, the Amazon seller wants Amazon sales. But you have to kind of go upstream a little bit. One, you need to beat the Facebook algorithm. So for the audience, if you're narrowing the audience or limiting the audience, one thing, you're probably choosing a higher quality audience. It may be slightly more expensive, but you're basically increasing your chance that that audience is correct. If it's really broad audience, this makes sense for either like bigger advertisers where you have bigger budgets and you're sending in enough data that Facebook can optimize and narrow down from that big audience that you choose into the exact customers. So I would suggest that it's actually better to limit the audience initially. Once you start building data, then you could use lookalikes off of that, broaden out, because a lot of times Amazon sellers start off with a really broad audience, but Facebook is so smart, it's just going to give you the lowest quality audience out of that, because you as an advertiser probably have there's like an advertiser metric that Facebook has, like how much money have you spent into Facebook? So they know that unless you've spent like tens of millions of dollars or even like millions, then it's not going to give you the high quality audience yet. You need to like spend money into that. So it's not necessarily a loss to build that for your next ads to be better.
Perfect. Okay, so I have a question for Meghla. Meghla, how does the Indian suppliers, are they familiar with the FNSQ labels or the shipping labels? Like Chinese suppliers, do they help us out shipping, to the Amazon FBA? Like, how does the shipping process work in a nutshell, if you wanna?
Yeah, so first of all, for the labels, suppliers who have catered to Amazon sellers, and increasingly there are more Amazon sellers who are sourcing from India. So more suppliers are getting familiar with the process. But even if they are not familiar, I think for labels specifically, it's fairly easy to do, and they're willing to place the labels for you at no extra charge. So similar to Chinese suppliers. I think it also helps to maybe make them aware of other guidelines for Amazon. For example, the size limitations and the various tiers for the size, and also the packaging. Because sometimes I find that Indian suppliers, they can be very creative and they can help you, for example, reduce the size of the packaging if it's kind of too large for the tier. So Yeah, I find that increasingly they're getting more aware, but not all suppliers are very familiar with FBA requirements just because, they haven't been, a lot of Amazon sellers have not been sourcing from India in the past, but it is changing now.
How's the experience, the sellers you've been working with? Because in India, if they say they'll get the thing done in 2 weeks, it's not 2 weeks, it can be 2 months, right? So how do you, what do you advise to the sellers to keep up with the due dates and everything?
Yeah, so definitely that is one challenge in India. One, the lead times are longer sometimes because the product is handmade. And, if many of the factories are not vertically integrated, they're outsourcing production and they're sourcing materials from various sources. So they don't sometimes have a lot of control over what's going on, right? So that can cause delays, and unexpected delays are quite common in India as well. And this is something that I think a lot of Indians are known for. It's known as, Indian Standard Time is known as Indian Stretchable Time. So yeah, this is something that you need to be aware of. And I do have, a section in my ebook about this and how to deal with this situation. But yeah, you've got to be on top of, the production at all times. You've got to be following up with them, by WhatsApp, and make sure that there are no issues. Sometimes they might not, tell you that there are issues, and at the very last minute they might say that, oh, I'm sorry, but the production will be delayed for whatever reason. So you need to make sure that whether it's by email or WhatsApp. Actually, WhatsApp is very good to communicate with Indian suppliers. They're much faster responding that way. Yeah, just keep track of that. Always have some buffer in your lead times. So maybe a 1 or 2 week buffer to accommodate any of the unexpected delays that you might find. And get everything in writing. That's really, really important. Have a contract in place where all of the deadlines and everything is very, very clearly specified, and the supplier agrees to that, and they actually sign the contract. I think that is quite beneficial as well, if possible. And sometimes suppliers are resistant to do this, but you can try and put in some penalties in the contract for delays, and that might help in some cases. Also, over time, it's important to build a relationship with the supplier. And once you do that, then you'll find that your orders are kind of prioritized over other buyers. And I think one of the reasons for these delays and all is that a lot of the companies are smaller and mid-sized companies, and they're not very well organized and not very efficient. There's fewer people doing a lot of different functions. A lot of times the owner themselves, they are managing correspondence with all of the buyers and keeping track of all of the orders. So yeah, I think those are some tips, and there's a bit more information in the ebook that I mentioned earlier.
Perfect. If you could send us the ebook link in the chat, that'll be great. And next question is for the Curtis, and it's by Ken. How important is building relationships with the wholesalers?
Building relationships with the wholesalers is very important, I would say. I'll take you through a little timeline of events. Let's just say you find a supplier through a trade show or a trade show directory. You call them up and you get them on the phone and you say, hey, I want all of your best products by this date, basically, on your first phone call. That's probably not going to happen just because they don't know you from, a hole in the wall. You just got on the phone with them. They don't know if you're serious. They don't know what kind of business you're running, right? They have all kinds of doubts about you. So basically, it's safe to say that first interaction isn't going to be 100%, right? So let's just say you get through that first interaction, you make your first order, and then it comes time to make your second order with that supplier. You call them up. Maybe he remembers your name by now. You remember his name. He remembers a little bit about your business. He remembers some of the products that you're interested in. So now the level of interaction is a little more. You moved up on the scale a little bit, right? So now that adds to building the relationship, adds to your credibility. So let's just say a couple weeks pass, you get them on the phone again. See how each time it gets a little better, a little better. So after a couple of those interactions go on, now they start calling you. Then that's when the relationship really starts to flourish. Let's just say a year into that relationship, you've taken them to dinner and you're discussing business over the table. then the relationship builds even more. So as time goes on, relationships get built, and that's only then is when you're able to really pour gas on the fire and really get those awesome products from your supplier. Not to say that you can't get awesome products right on the first or the second phone call or the first or second interaction, but if that happens, great. But if not, don't take it to heart, right? Again, building a relationship is probably the most important part of any business relationship. If that's wholesale, private label, you name it, the relationships are key.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks, Curtis. We have a really long question. I think who's going to take that? It's from Salman. I think Ken, you would be the right one to, or Quinn, one of you guys, if you want to take this.
We can both talk. Number one is I would add another condition for the product and see if it actually can sell it today. Because adding it into the store right now will see if you can sell it in today's condition. And if you can sell it in today's condition, then you got to work on selling that other SKU. What do you think, Quinn?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, so first of all, it seems like that's everybody's listing is not your own private label or anything. And the reason why it was taken down, and of course I don't know this listing, but it could be during the panic that Amazon was putting out fires when people start price gouging. They weren't shutting out or shutting down individual sellers. They were closing the whole listing. So that could be the reason why it happened. If it was one of those listings that has 10 or 20 sellers. Now, sending the product again before they allow you to, using the same exact listing, it would be risky. So, like Ken said, if you create a variation and they allow you to, now that's completely different. But it would be very good to know more about it, to find out the real reason why it was shut down, to find out if it was you that they stopped from sending, or if it was the listing itself.
Thank you, Quinn. We have next question for Hanson. This is from Rizwan. Hanson, have you had a chance to take a look at the question?
Yeah, so it's about the seller feedback and what can you do if it bounces, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, unfortunately, I mean, the problem with Amazon is that we're in this controlled system where we have to follow the rules, and there's really no way for us to communicate with the customer, once they order your product. So in this scenario, it's just kind of like you just have to play along with the bounce. Like everyone's on the same playing field. Everyone's going to get bounce messages. There's always going to be opted out buyers. The only way to get through them is using the critical message tab. But if you use that to get through, you're going to get suspended because you're asking for seller feedback. So you can't do that. My suggestion really is that just ignore the bounces. Use an automated emailer, because once you set up your message, you just have it on and you don't have to worry about it, right? They're going to just come flowing in. Of course, there's a good percentage of people that are not going to get it, but the people that do respond to it, just focus on trying to get, the 70% that can read it, right? And figure out how to optimize, your sequence, not your sequence, but your email, your template, your subject line. And, that's the best thing you can really do about it.
Beautiful. So looks like, that's pretty much it. We can take one more question if anyone's got it. If not, then we're just going to end it here in about a few seconds. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, all the speakers, everyone who joined from different parts of the world. Oh, we got one question. Okay. Amazon lost or misplaced of some of the FBA shipment items. And when I tried to raise a case with this board, they responded with the regular answer that it's already been checked, and now I get a warning that the numbers are not matching. Interesting. Who wants to take that?
I could probably talk about that quickly.
Sure.
Number one is if you were shipping to Canada, you didn't have a manifest. If you ship to the US, you should have a manifest for every box. The way you would fight this case is probably based on size of box and weight of items and number of items in the box. is how you'd win this case if you're fighting it.
Perfect. Okay, guys. So if you are watching our Facebook Live, we have some links in this chat box. You can always go to our Facebook page. In the live, there are like websites for each and every one. All the speakers, you can go there, find some more information. You can contact them directly. I'm sure all of them will be willing to help you out. So that's pretty much it. And I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great day. Stay safe. Stay in your homes. Bye, guys.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye.
night. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Good night.